We are now in 3.4 polynomial functions. We have analyzed it, graphed it, added, subtracted, and multiplied, and so now we get to divide. So in class you will go ahead and answer the question of would you rather play paintball or laser tag? And we are going to jump right into synthetic division, which I think is something magical in math. So here are the steps. And I'm not going to go over the steps here. I'm going to go over the steps in the next slide with an example right next to it because I believe that it is easier to follow along the steps when you can see it actually happening. So let's go down here. So we have step 1, which I'm going to go ahead and highlight in pink here because I'm going to do it in pink. So step 1, write the coefficients of the dividend so that the degrees of the terms are in descending order. And if there was anything that wasn't here, so say there wasn't an x squared here, but there's an x and an x cubed, there has to be a placeholder for that. And we'll do an example of that later. But let's go ahead and look at this. So we have 2, and then negative 13, positive 26, minus 24. My line down here isn't quite long enough, so I'm just going to go ahead and draw a line to extend it. So that's step 1, just writing down the coefficients right here. So I just took those and wrote them down here. Let's look at the next step. So step 2, write the constant r of the divisor in the box for x minus r. So we actually have to write the opposite of what we see here. So right now we see a negative 4. We're going to write a positive 4 because we want to know the r value right here. And if you look, this says x minus r, which means there is already a minus sign in here. And so if there was a, say, x plus 4, that means the r was actually x minus negative 4. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and always write the opposite. So if you want to write that maybe here and just say opposite of the problem that you see, or whatever you want to write in order for you to remember that it's the opposite. Okay, now let's look at the next one. Step 3, bring down the first coefficient. So here's the first coefficient. We're just going to bring it on down underneath right there. That's it. And then the next thing is multiply that coefficient. So I'm going to go ahead and highlight it in orange. Multiply that first coefficient by r and write the answer down under the second coefficient. So what does that mean? Take this r value and then this coefficient here and just do 2 times whatever that r value is, which is 4 here. So 2 times 4, that equals 8. That's step 4. Step 5, add those two together. So do negative 13 plus 8. Well, that would be negative 5. Okay, and then it says to just repeat those steps. So let's see, what color haven't we used yet? Let's go ahead and use just a plain red instead of pink. So we're going to take those and we're just going to do the same thing. We're going to take this 5, negative 5, and we're going to multiply it by positive 4. So we're going to have a negative 20 here. And then add those. 26 plus a negative 20 would just be 6. And repeat. So 6 times 4, that would give you 24. Negative 24 plus 24 would be 0. And then the last step, which isn't written in here, so you're going to have to write it, is to write your answer. So write your answer, and it's best if you go right to left. And it starts with your remainder, then your constant, then x, x squared, x to the third, and so on. Okay, so what I mean by that is this 0 is your remainder when you divide. This 6 is your constant, so no x value with it. This negative 5 is your x, and the 2 is your x squared. And if it kept going, I would just keep adding to your exponent. So our final answer is 2x squared minus 5x plus 6, and our remainder is 0, so we don't need to write it. This is our answer. So all of this, divide by this, is this answer right here. Let's look at another one. So I would like for you to pause this video and try this one and then check your answer. So go ahead and pause. Okay, I first start with writing my coefficients. So this coefficient right here, even though we don't see it, is a 1. So we have a 1, then we have -2, then we have -25, and then we have a +6. So there's my coefficients. And then my next step is to write that opposite of this one right here. So it's a -6, which means it's a +6 here. And then I next bring down my first one here, which is just a 1. And then I start my multiplication. So we do 1 times 6, which is just 6. Sorry. And then we add those together. So -2 plus 6 would give us a +4. And then we would just keep going. So, sorry, I'm trying to figure out which colors I use so I can keep it consistent. So 4 times 6 would be 24. Add those together and we get -1. Multiply that one by 6 and we get -6. And then 6 plus a -6 would be positive. So now we have all of those, and the last step is to write our answer. So this is our remainder, this is our constant, x, and then x squared. So our final answer would be x squared plus 4x minus 1. And again, we don't have to write the remainder because it's 0. And there's that one. Okay, let's look at this last one. So the last one, we look at our coefficients, and we have a 1, and it goes from x to the 4th to x squared. So we actually have 0x to the 3rd in there. So we have to put a 0 in for the placeholder, just like we would with long division. So 1 and then 0. I'm just gonna move that up there. So 0, then -10, then -2, then +4. And then here is a +3, so this time it's going to be a -3. And now it's the same process. So bring down the first coefficient, and I would recommend that you pause the video and then try doing all this and then check your work. So then 1 times -3 would be -3. And then add those. 0 plus -3 would be -3. And then now we just keep doing that. So -3 times -3 would be a +9. -10 plus +9 would be a -1. Multiply. That gives you +3. -2 plus 3 gives you a 1, and then multiply again and you get -3, which then gives you a 1. So now this is our remainder, this is our constant, x, x squared, and x to the 3rd. So we have 1x to the 3rd plus, or no, excuse me, minus, because it's a -3, x squared minus 1x plus 1, and then we have a remainder of 1, and then the bottom here is what we divided by, which was x plus 3. And that is your final answer. And that is it for synthetic division. So if you have any questions, let me know. Otherwise, I will see you in class, and I hope all these videos that I make really do help you. Have a great day.